Fair and Flood dared each other. Perhaps they wanted to christen their new flume with a ceremonial ride. Perhaps they were showing off for a man whose newspaper reached hundreds of thousands of readers. Whatever the reason, mill hands hurriedly assembled two V-shaped boats, nothing more than smaller versions of the flume itself. The front ends were left open. The rear ends were closed with boards to catch the current. Narrow planks served as seats. Fair and Ramsdell climbed into the first boat. Flood and John B. Hereford, who had directed the flume's construction, took the second. At the last moment, they recruited a fifth passenger, an unnamed carpenter with a known fondness for whiskey. He was there.
All right, this is a story. This is an amazing channel, by the way. Yeah, it's called The Western Audit. And it's basically a really well put together montage of stories about the like the Western expansion, you know, the early settlers, a lot of stories, a lot of good stories. And here's one that's really interesting. This device here is called a flume. And these were built out of necessity because they needed to move a bunch of logs from one place to another place. And railroads wouldn't be available for that type of mountainous. So they invented this like amazing thing called a flume, and it's like a wooden slide that they pour water down and they send the logs down on this thing, and they go to their destination. This thing could be miles long. Like this one in particular is like I think 15 miles long, like over 20 kilometers. And it was built at an expense of like $250,000. So after they built it, the owners or something that got it built, they wanted to get publicity for this thing for some reason, I don't know what. So they decided to try to go down these flumes, like riding a log. And they made a little boat. You just heard earlier about they constructed these boats, and they got to these people and to go three per boat, I think, or a log. You know, it's a log boat that's going to go down this thing, uncontrolled, no brakes. Nothing to hold on to. Anyways, crazy. Listen to how it turns out.
For ballast. The moment they sat down, they shot forward like bullets from a gun. The makeshift boats bumped and careened down the irregular course, over rocky gullies, around curves built along the sides of sheer cliffs. Ramsdell later wrote that he had experienced 80-mile-an-hour gales and never felt the suffocating sensation caused by the wind of their out-of-control descent. He compared the din to the rushing of a buffalo herd. At the steepest sections, the speed was so great the passengers could barely breathe. Ramsdell told Tribune readers, "You have nothing to hold on to. You have only to sit still, take all the water that comes, drenching you like a plunge through the surf, and wait for eternity." At certain points along the trestle, a fall would mean being thrown out against jagged rocks below.
For sure.
James Fair put it more succinctly. "My belief is that we annihilated both time and space." They lived. The second boat, starting 60 seconds behind the first, caught up just as they reached the mill pond at the bottom. The collision sent all 5 men sailing in different directions, far from shore. They were grateful it happened in a relatively safe section of the flume. Seconds earlier, they had been traveling over a stretch where the outcome could have been catastrophic. Flood pitched forward on his face. The others fared only slightly better. But they had survived what many workers did not. Ramsdell would write about the experience for the Tribune, bringing national attention to the wooden water slides of the West. Wow. His article made the flume famous from California to New York. His hosts had gotten their publicity. The question nobody asked publicly was how many anonymous workers had died in similar rides.
Seriously.
Men whose deaths warranted no newspaper coverage and no investigation. Flume riding was...
Okay, so after they did this crazy thing that no one had ever done, and they got it in the newspapers and everybody read about it, suddenly everybody wanted to try it. It suddenly became like a popular thing. So people would head out to these flumes and like try to go down them in their own like makeshift boat. People would survive, some would die. It started to become a sport. So when I was a kid, I went to the Ronde, and there was this like log ride thing. And I never knew that it was inspired by like a real thing, you know. So anyways, it goes on. people start going crazy with this. It was a craze.
Already a known quantity by 1875. The daring sport had gained popularity beginning around 1865, starting with men riding logs themselves,
Right after
and
the
progressing to
Civil
the
War.
use of improvised boats called go-devils. Workers used them to transport tools, supplies, and
Sure.
construction materials, but
Nice.
everyone knew men also used them for fast transportation.
Really?
The V flumes in
How'd you get-
Verde, Crystal Peak, Dog Creek, and Prosser Creek areas were shaped like the Go Devils themselves, narrow V-shaped craft that fit inside the trough and caught the current. At the end of a 6-day work week, a Saturday night ride down the flume to the pleasures of the valley was a tempting prospect.
Nice.
Truckee in the late 1870s offered plenty of entertainment for loggers with money to spend. A plethora of bars, numerous brothels, and one jail,
Look at how high that
all
one is.
concentrated on
It's hard to see it,
Jeboom
but it's like a
Street.
high trestle.
Some companies forbade flume riding.
No
The
flume.
reason was simple. Death and serious injury were common outcomes.
No kidding.
Occupational fatality statistics from the era are unavailable, but contemporary reports make clear that falls resulted in many injuries and deaths.
You don't think?
Working on the flume was dangerous even without riding. Construction crews of 6 to 8 men built trestles in remote wilderness with 4 workers aloft continuously. One man handled and sent up lumber from below. The terrain was rough, undeveloped, and unforgiving. Men hung on ropes down the sides of steep ravines, hammering together flume boxes. The Magenta flume, one of the most spectacular built during the era, stretched 126 feet high and 1,400 feet long, spanning the gap between Cherry Hill and Eureka South. Some trestles achieved staggering heights to maintain the proper grade. 3% grade was ideal for a straight flume. Sometimes grades of up to 75% were used on short stretches. Flume drivers stationed along the route checked the flow of lumber and water. On longer systems, they lived in permanent flume houses, communicating by light signals, and later by telephone. They carried metal-tipped wooden tools called pickaroons. When lumber jammed, they risked their lives to free it. Narrow catwalks provided only maintenance access along miles of trough. Every repair meant working at height, in weather, with water rushing past.
Okay, what am I gonna do?
John Brayshaw
Alright, I'll go find something. It's pretty fat already.
in 1870.
I don't want to get him like too dependent on me. Want to come in?
Was a continuous trough made of 2-inch planks, 16 and 18
Let me
inches
make sure
wide,
that's him. That's ready.
together at right angles.
Yeah, there he goes.
The boxes were set with
Good
a
shape.
cord down